Hello, this is the 145th edition of Catch of the Day, available on the Branch Talk YouTube channel. Today we're going to continue reading from Doug Mitchell's book, When the Siege Has Ended, EZ5, The Judgement for the Living. Starting at the top of page 41, we read, In that last quote, we have the practical reason for observing the Lord's Supper, that being that it will keep us humble and separate from the world, and from backsliding. Had the church attained to and abided in those conditions, there never would have been a problem with the unrolling of the scroll as it occurred. But the church has never reached that standard because their keeping of the ordinance has always been polluted with remnants of the Mass, which was one of the primary means whereby the saints were worn out. Daniel 7:25. While the Sabbath is a memorial of creation, wherein God demonstrated the principle of the cross by resting from self, the Lord's Supper is a memorial of recreation, another even greater demonstration of God's ability to rest from self. That is why the Catholic Church places so much emphasis on their counterfeit of the Lord's Supper, the Mass, and on their substitute Sabbath Sunday. That is, they know that the life of the early church was contingent upon their relationship with God and with each other through the sacrifice of Christ, and that the remembrance of his suffering and glory in the breaking of the bread and taking of the cup was at the heart of the new covenant fellowship. That's why, in seeking to bring down the power of the saints, Daniel 7:25, the devil used those bishops who were forsaking the Holy Covenant, Daniel 11:30, to attempt to change the Sabbath and corrupt the true nature and purpose of the Lord's Supper. Speaking of the Lord's Supper, Brother Hottoff says, no one seems to know when and how to observe the sacrament. Some observe it every Sunday or every Sabbath, some occasionally, some every quarter, and so on. It seems logical to say that when God commands us to ordain it anew, he will tell us also how and when to observe it properly. 1 TG 3:6. The SDA practice of observing the Lord's Supper every quarter, 3 months, stems from the Methodist and Baptist traditions of the 1800s, when their circuit-riding preachers would only come around to the churches every 3 months. As they could only keep the ordinance when it was presided over by a properly ordained elder, they would not keep it according to their man-made tradition unless such an elder was present. The SDAs never changed that practice, even though the spirit of prophecy said that they should keep it more frequently. The Davidians, though, have been no better off than the SDAs in keeping the ordinance because they still keep it with them when they are able to. But neither of them get the true benefit of the preparatory service, the foot washing, because the true keeping of that service includes an honest self-examination and confession of sin, something which the average Adventist is not about to do with a Davidian. So the Spirit cannot do the work upon their hearts at those times. Moreover, most Davidians, especially the leaders of the various factions, are not about to confess any sins they may have committed against any Adventist to any Adventist or to any other Davidians they disagree with, for that matter, because they feel it would weaken their influence. It is a strange situation among those who want to be identified as Davidians, those who are supposed to be overcoming, or have overcome, the Laodicean condition, that Brother Hardif said that they were not ready to have the Lord's Supper among themselves because they were in such an undone condition that it would prove to be a curse to them rather than a blessing. Yet after over 55 years since Brother Hardif's death, the Rod message on its own has not brought those who profess to believe it to a state where they can keep the Lord's Supper among themselves, so that they may reap the great blessings that are in it. What is even stranger is the fact that none of the so-called leaders today seem to be concerned about what they and those they are blindly leading are missing by not keeping the divine commandment to remember the Lord through said appointment. When believers assemble to celebrate the ordinances, there are present messengers unseen by human eyes. There may be a Judas in the company, and if so, messengers from the Prince of Darkness are there, for they attend all who refuse to be controlled by the Holy Spirit. Heavenly angels also are present. These unseen visitants are present on every such occasion. There may come into the company persons who are not in heart servants of truth and holiness, but who may wish to take part in the service. They should not be forbidden. Thank you very much. Take care.